God, this is really sensitive. It won't snap the time you guys talk. I can't. And then when the air conditioning is on, you think it's really quiet out there for So I'm reading your resignation thing. Come across your name.
I know.
Yeah, whenever you're ready. Just as long as we do it before June.
Oh, okay.
I want to mention how the other ones are going to affect. Anything else yourself? You have good perspective.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please take a moment of silent prayer and word of reflection.
Here.
Here. We'll join me in the pledge of
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let it go.
There was an X.
I see we have one call of the public. Sam Hoffman, are you there? Please go.
Very good. Very, very good. Okay, so I'm coming to one of you guys to answer the board. This is regarding the law that was on Swanson. And last meeting, it was announced that we were going to check into the lawyer to see if you guys would sell it. So I wanted to see if you got anything back on it and see what we're doing with it. Because my buyer is very anxious.
I would direct you to contact Mr. Murray, business director.
Okay. So you want me to send it to you or something like that and get it done? Okay.
And I would have to take an action next meeting, somewhere address your needs.
Okay. Did you guys do like, do you have any idea if you guys want to trade or do you guys have to sell?
Let's talk to Mr. Murray.
Okay. Okay. That was pretty much the main reason why I'm here. But I appreciate it. Thank you for your guys' time.
Now we're going to go to recognition of prisoners. The Apollo Foundation has seen Mr. Jones and Mr. Paul for you. There's one come up now. There's this also coming.
This is great stuff. President Masden, members of the governing board, tonight we celebrate the most important factor in our district, accomplished teaching. The National Board is devoted to the belief that the single most important way to improve education in the United States is to recognize and reward accomplished teachers. Over the course of 16 years, 23 teachers in Lake Havasu have achieved National Board certification. Tonight, we, the Lake Havasu Unified School District and the K-12 Foundation, recognize and congratulate 3 new National Board certified teachers, Nina Mersing, Courtney Zampona, and Dustin Zampona. Unified School District for 11 years. She has worked at Starline and Nautilus. Nina has taught both first and second grade. She's involved in ELL K-6 enrichment, first grade tutoring, and the Foreign Language Club. If you ever get the opportunity to see her teach, take it. It is magical. She works tirelessly to create amazing learning experiences for her students, including taking all of the first and second grade students at Nautilus to the Phoenix Zoo. Just to put that in perspective, imagine your last family road trip and multiply it by 120 sticky first and second graders. Nina chose to pursue National Board certification to validate to herself that the strategies she was incorporating in her classroom were impacting all of her students. Her most vivid memory, in her own words. I had to videotape my video because the first camera I used was so antiquated that we could not download the video onto the computer. So I watched my video on TV and literally videotaped my TV using a newer camera. Nina would like to thank her coaches and support team for their continual encouragement, rereading and rereading those 14 pages that need to be cut down to 10. Courtney Zampona. Courtney has been teaching in Lake Havasu for 6 years. All of those years serving the students and families of Oro Grande. She's taught a 3-4 split and first grade. Courtney made the decision to pursue board certification to challenge herself and grow as an educator. Her most vivid memory is one of the final days before submission. I went into the video portion that I uploaded and watched my 2 videos probably 5 times to make sure that they had downloaded correctly and that the entire video had uploaded and that you could see my face. I was so nervous that I didn't upload it correctly and they wouldn't be able to see everything I had submitted. Courtney would like to thank her husband, Dustin, for sticking by her side and going through this process with her. It was very time-consuming and a ton of work, and I know it would have been much harder if I didn't have his support. I would also like to thank Christina Musselman for sticking by my side and helping me get through the last 2 years. Without her editing my work, helping me think outside the box, and being there to bounce ideas off of, I don't know if I would have succeeded. Thank you. Now, before we meet Dustin Zampona, I'd like to point out that the Zamponas completed National Board certification while getting married, having their first baby, and buying their first house. So if you want to talk about time management skills, go talk to those 2. So now we meet Dustin. Dustin has also been teaching in Lake Havasu for 6 years. He's worn many different hats. During his first year, he was split between Thunderbolt teaching science and Nautilus teaching PE. In year 2, he taught science at Thunderbolt, and in his 3rd year, he became PE teacher for Jamaica, Smoke Tree, and Nautilus. For the last 3 years, he's taught high school physical education. Dustin made the decision to pursue National Board certification after attending pre-candidacy. I wanted to dig in deeper. I wanted to continue to reflect on my teaching and determine ways to better meet my students' needs. Dustin's most vivid memory of the National Board process in his own words. My most vivid memory would be getting through the process with my wife. We were there to work on things, travel to Phoenix together, and complete the process together. Dustin would like to thank the K-12 Foundation for allowing us to pursue National Board at an affordable cost. I would like to thank all the mentors at Lake Havasu Unified School District that have proofread and sat with me through multiple meetings to help me with my writing, especially Marcia Becker and Christina Musselman. And of course, my wife for being there to support me when I needed it. Now, please join me as I welcome Tracy Jones and Jerry Aldridge from the K-12 Foundation to present our new NBCTs with a monetary gift.
Well, we thank you for this opportunity. We're very excited about presenting these 3 individuals. It's very exciting to know that our students are getting the best of the best right here in the most beautiful place where you can possibly live. And I would like to introduce, hello. She is also new to our K-12 board, and we are very happy to present these checks and thank these teachers for all their hard work. Are we ready?
We're ready.
Okay. Go ahead.
First, Nina Murphy. Congratulations. It's an honor and a privilege for Cindy and I to support both K-12 and your hard work, and thank you for being here. Courtney. And Mr. Dustin. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you for the gift.
Both ends, both spectrums, which is nice. Thank you.
Next, we have recognition of Smoke Creek STEM community volunteers. Connie?
Mr. President, members of the board, superintendent, friends. It is my honor this evening to recognize Mr. and Mrs. Nash for their dedicated service and outstanding contributions to furthering the academic education at Smoke Tree Elementary School. The Nashes have volunteered at Smoke Tree for the past 3 years, supporting student learning and assisting in the development of our STEM program by sharing the rich knowledge of their past career experiences. Barb worked as an application specialist and trained doctors and technicians in the use of ultrasound equipment, and Ken was the director of TOW anti-armor weapon systems, where he worked in the development, testing, and manufacturing of tactile missiles. Ken and Barbara have an extensive volunteer background. They served in the Peace Corps from 1997 to 1998. They served 2 years as Big Couple, which is part of the Big Brother Big Sister program. They served as support staff for local Special Olympics. They delivered meals at Christmas for the Salvation Army. They worked 2 years with at-risk youth through the Havasu court system. And at Smoke Tree, they have coached, guided, and empowered 8 teams of 6th grade students through challenging competitions, bringing home 6 awards. This evening is to recognize and celebrate their dedication and for the significant difference in our school community they have made. Their compassion and generous behavior and outstanding character mirrors the commitment to success we want our students to display as contributing members of our society. On behalf of Smoke Tree students and staff, we'd like to thank them for the sharing and the success of learning with our students. Mr. and Mrs. Nash, please join us up front.
That's a great piece of paper.
Aggie, I think you're next.
Yes. Mr. President, members of the board, it is a privilege to recognize the 2017 Arizona School Counselors Association, known as ASCA, School Counselor of the Year, Mrs. Tracy Presley. State School Counselors of the Year honorees were selected based on several criteria, including school counseling innovation, effective school counseling programs, leadership and advocacy skills, and contributions to student achievement. Tracy has been a practicing school counselor for over 20 years and has a long and distinguished record of service. She has worked at Lake Havasu High School for the last 6 years. Tracy raises the bar and is a gold standard for school counselors. She is truly the epitome of the profession, as quoted by a parent, or former parent, Cindy Coons, who got to know Tracy while her daughter attended the high school. Tracy values getting to know the students, thereby becoming an active participant in their success and academic achievement. She is a steadfast asset to many students. Throughout her career, Tracy has worked with numerous students on a range of topics such as applying for competitive universities, providing knowledge and resources on career exploration, and handling crisis situations. Tracy has demonstrated a special passion for working with students suffering from substance abuse or addictive behaviors. The recipient of the Ask a Counselor of the Year receives a $500 reward, all expenses paid to the trip to Washington, D.C., consideration for the National Counselor of the Year, complimentary Ask a Conference registration in recognition of the event, an invitation to present at the Ask a Conference, and financial support to and from the advocacy event. Thank you, Tracy, for traveling to Washington, D.C. to represent Arizona and our local community at the 2018 National School Council Convention, and presenting this year at the Ask a Conference along with the other members of the counseling department in the Havasu High School. Thank you, Tracy, again for making the difference. Thank you so much, Tracy.
Next, we'll have Mrs. Montesky with our LHCP Days update.
President Madsen, members of the board, Superintendent Fire, directors, staff, students, and community members. This is your Lake Havasu City Education Association monthly update. As of last Friday, all bills have been heard, or that will be heard, have been heard. So for the next few weeks, we will be watching legislation as these bills are presented to both the House and the Senate. So watch closely and follow. We are following a few bills. One would be the HB 2281 bill, which is the ELL instruction dual language program, which removes this 4-hour requirement that we have to allow us to teach the needs of our ELL students. We also have SB 1378, which has a requirement on language for our future override and bond initiatives, which could be detrimental when public is reading them and may not understand the actual numbers that are being presented. So, for instance, we would have to, all of the money that we've been receiving from the school's facilities board, unless we're able to communicate that to our public and make sure they understand that all of that funding has been granted to us, all of our federal dollars, all of those items that may not be understood by our public would be required to be stated. HB 2187 is the school's teacher evaluation system. We are looking for it to be passing the Senate. It has passed the House. It removes the requirement of the data on student academic progress account from 33 to 50% on our teacher evaluation. So we're excited that it has passed the House. Now we are waiting on the Senate. And currently, and I was listening right when we walked in, but I haven't heard the final vote, but the Senate appropriation was discussing SB 1268, which is our JTED, for the fully funding of what has been cut over time of our JTED program. It will also include our 9th grade program. So I'm excited that it has gotten this far, and we're just looking for appropriations. I will try to find out, but they voted on it, but I couldn't hear it because we weren't here. And finally, to close, our hearts are broken, and we are
grieving deeply with those that were affected by last Wednesday in Florida. And the importance of safe environment for all of our students and staff is always our concern. And we will, there's lots of communication going on between the board and directors and staff and the importance of our safety for our students. And I just want to keep you in mind that that's always our number one concern.
Thank you. President Mazza, members of the board, I would like to recognize that we have Dr. Katie White here from the Mojave Community College, and she has brought her MCC students from the Intro to Education course to observe educational governance in action. And so Dr. White is here. And then you'll also notice that we have several students here this evening from the civics classes at the high schools who are observing governance in action as well.
That brings us to item 4, the consent agenda, and I'll entertain a motion on that.
I would like to pull 4.1.5 and discuss that separately, but I'll make a motion to approve.
May I get you to clarify your motion, please?
I make a motion that we consider 4.1.5 separately at item 4.2. And then I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Second. Okay.
Kathy Fox? Yes. Nicole Cohen?
Yes.
Alan Morris?
Yeah.
Pat Rooney?
Yes.
John Master?
Yes. A consent calendar is generally something that we use to take care of routine business. Personnel reports, things that also we may not generally discuss in public. Within that, any member of the board has the ability to remove an item from the consent agenda and move it into a regularly discussed item. There it is. So, for instance, we have an update to the technology policy on how the district webpage is published and so on. And that was part of the consent agenda we just passed. It's not something where we're doing anything but doing a little bit of language housekeeping. We've gone from hosting it internally, hosting it to a third-party provider. So some of that language has changed based on how it's hosted. So things of that nature are generally the consent agenda. With that, we'll go to 4.2, which is now approval of travel, which is originally 415.
Correct. I make a motion to approve 4.2.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, is there discussion?
So, and I only have questions because I was emailed some questions, so I'm going to go ahead and ask the questions. The first question was, how do we decide on in particular, the educational tour group, so the trip to Panama? How do we decide the vendor that puts those programs together? Does anybody know? Is anybody here that knows?
Actually, my understanding is that goes out for a bid, and then we have a contract that goes for a certain number of years, and so we're under a contract with that vendor.
Okay. And then my second question was, I noticed on the form that we're using tax credit for it. So, and you might not have this answer, it's fine if you don't, if you could let me know after, but I'd like to know how much tax credit we are using for that particular trip.
I do not have that answer right now. I'm not certain what that would be. I believe the individual students are able to raise the tax credit for their own funds, for their own trip. So it's up to the individual student to raise that amount.
Mr. Murray, do you have the answer to that?
I don't
That's
know if
something
we
that
have
would be
it.
in the auxiliary. That would come through the actual tour group, and how they're going to fund that would be proposed and brought to you for your approval, but I believe that is correct. If it's 3,345 per student, then I wasn't in the meeting, but I'm guessing that the student is responsible for that $3,345, whether that comes in the form of tax credit, or just their parents paying for it, or their part-time job paying for it, they would be responsible for that dollar amount.
And I think they also have fundraisers too.
Correct.
Okay.
That there's, you know, and then the last question was, is there any, do they do anything when they go on this trip? Like, do they write a report about their trip, or is there anything that they do for these big international trips, besides just go on the trip?
So I can speak to that. Is there any other students that's been on the trip? Oh, perfect. So we've got a couple students. So it depends on the trip. I don't know per se that they're writing a report, but it's educational in nature. COSUP in particular, we're there to learn about the government, but this is educational tour group. It is focused on learning, and so there is a local tour guide along with a tour guide that takes them through the whole trip, and so they'll look at the historical nature of that area, and then they might look at the ecological nature of that area. They might look at the economics of the area. I know when they're going to Panama, they're going to a school, I believe. I don't know if the full itinerary is there, but there is always a balance of looking at the social and cultural climate of the area, as well as the educational and historical nature of the area. The reason why they have chosen educational tour group is because of the high level of security that they provide, the high level of training for local and local tour guides, along with the tour guide that goes with them the whole entire time. So these students can speak to it as well. My child's gone, has gone. It's a high quality tour that is focused on education. Do you have anything to add?
I think Ms. Cohen brings up a good point, though. You might want to look into having some form of report or academic application where they reflect on what they learned on the trip.
So in order to go on the trip, they have to go to monthly meetings where they're learning about the culture all the way on, and they have to go to the meetings all the way proceeding to learn about the food, to learn about the language, to learn about the history. All that precedes them going on the trip.
So they do the work on the front.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have any of the students that have been on a trip, are they in here tonight? I'd like to hear from the students. You're not going to be tested on this either.
What would you like to hear about?
Well, just, your own experience.
Yes, I went to China my senior year, and I went to Costa Rica my sophomore year. The coming up trip would be Panama and Costa Rica. We have to go through not necessarily classes, but we have to sit through meetings where it tells us the cultural, what is appropriate, what is not appropriate, what you can do, what you cannot do, how you approach people, the language, how to say hello, thank you, how much, where's the bathroom. It's a general, overall, very educational. Like, I went to the Great Wall of China, and we learned how it was built and how long it took, and the people that died, and different academic things. But there is, like, horseback riding in Costa Rica. So it's fun to help people learn.
And have you taken Spanish?
I did take Spanish.
So when you go to one of the Latin countries, you've been able to use the language?
I went to China, and I do study Chinese in my free time.
Thank you.
John, one of the teachers is in our Kiwanis Club, and she has the students, when they're on their trip, they video a lot of different things. And when they come back, she has them compile the video, and then as a program for our club. they do the students come and do a full presentation on the entire trip, usually about 20 minutes. So, and Mrs. Rose Johnson has done that for the past, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. So every time they come back, they do the video for us. So they do a lot of follow-up to the trip.
You know, I would like to say something, and that is that you don't learn everything in the classroom. That you learn everything oftentimes by experience. Just and travel is a heck of an experience as far as you know, just making you more inquisitive, making you more aware of the world and its people, a chance to use other languages and they inspire you to just broaden yourself. So I think things like this, and you really notice this oftentimes with kids from Europe or other countries, they do a lot of traveling. And so it really expands your horizons, I think.
Is there anything else on 4.2? Jerry, if you call the vote.
Alan Ward,
Yes.
Pat Rooney,
Yes.
Kathy Cox,
Yes.
Nicole Cohen,
Yes.
Tom Maston,
Yes. There's no old business, so that takes us to 6.1. Mr. Murray.
Mr. President, members of the board, it is recommended the governing board approve funding for renovations to Lee Barnes Stadium, including a practice field on the north end of the lower field. In accordance with the construction manager at risk services, a guaranteed maximum price has been established and is outlined in the supporting documentation provided. An estimate of professional services, permits, fees, etc. are also outlined to be included in the overall cost of the project. On September 19, 2017, the Lake Havasu Unified School District Governing Board approved issuance of a request for qualifications for construction manager at risk services related to bond-funded athletic field projects. On November 21, 2017, the governing board awarded the contract for construction manager at risk services for bond athletic field projects to Core Construction. In an attempt to promote participation from local subcontractors and vendors, Core Construction organized a subcontractor fair. The fair was advertised using multiple outlets, including radio, and held on Thursday, December 21st, 2017 at the London Bridge Resort. District personnel, Core, and EMC2 representatives communicate regularly to discuss specifics to the project, including construction timelines. Pending approval of the GMP, a guaranteed maximum price, construction is set to begin in the coming weeks, with substantial completion targeted for the beginning of August. Payment for these services will come from voter-approved bond funds, and this item has been reviewed by legal and approved by purchasing. I do have several individuals here tonight. Mike Pilkington from Core Construction and Richard Sweater from EMC2. They each have other representatives from their organizations here tonight. We have a brief PowerPoint presentation to show, showing the drawings and some three-dimensional renderings as well. And we'll get into the overall cost of the project.
I make a motion we accept 6.1 as presented.
Okay. On the floor, gentlemen. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Mike Pilkington at Core Construction.
I'm Richard Sweater with the EMC2 Architects.
I'd like to also introduce some of the rest of my team. James Faria, the senior project manager for the project. Went to high school and played on the football field there at high school. Sean Mulvaney, who his wife actually was a cheerleader at high school. Project manager for the project, and then Brad Duba, who will be our superintendent on the project.
Then I brought Dave Gornick, our director of business development from the EMC2.
So part of our presentation here, just to show you a little bit about the project, some of the things we've been working on, and some of the things that are included in the project. So first off, obviously the track. Oh, go ahead.
Mind if I ask you just so I can see the
Yes.
presentation?
Yes.
Thank you.
So
First off, there's about 8 items here, but the first obvious scope of the project is the track and field replacement, artificial athletic turf field, and a synthetic all-weather running track. The second portion of the project is a brand new concession stand and restroom building, a practice field, the sods practice field on the lower region of the project, parking lot improvement and renovations, new home grandstands and visitor.
And this is the layout of the football field. So all the lines, the lettering, the colors is all sewn into the turf, so it's not painted on, so it's all part of the field, so it's permanent. The logo is sewn into the field, and so that'll be there for the life of the field.
This is our current logistics plan. So everything within the purple areas is what would be considered part of our construction operations, and the limits shown with the dashed gold lines where we'll have our temporary fence. What the goal of the project is to be able to keep access open. Here where the number 1s are, that's where we're going to ensure safe access for students to the lower field. There are going to be dates on there, because there will have to be construction activities constructed through that area. But the goal is to enable students for PE to walk across the pedestrian bridge and to access the lower fields for PE. So some of the next steps within the project, the goal is to get approval for tonight, and after approval, we would have a construction notice to proceed on Monday, the 26th. So that's when we'll mobilize, start putting up our tent fence, and we'll start the demolition of the existing facilities. To receive the goal is to receive a permit from the city and local fire authorities on the 1st of March. And that will enable us to start construction. Anything that needs to get inspected and having a permit will enable us to do that. So that would target a substantial completion date of August 1st. That's when you'll have your certificate of occupancy, so you can actually use the field. And when we would be done with the field and its final completion, all the punch list items, anything outstanding would be complete by August 15th, 2018. So I want to talk a little bit about how we've reached out to, I know it's important for the community for us to engage local subcontractors, keeping dollars here locally, and I just want to kind of show you a little bit of our goal in doing so. As Mr. Murray alluded to, that we had a subcontractor at the London Bridge Resort on December 21st, 2017 for Christmas. We invited various subcontractors to come and learn about the project, learn about how to get pre-qualified as a company, and how to bid the project. We also had a kind of our first bid invite to reach out to those subcontractors, ones on our bid list and ones that responded to us up there on January 4th, 2018, and bid invite number 2, where we reached out and again to the local contractors to gain even more interest in the project. In total, we've invited 283 subcontractors to bid on this project. We received 80 bids for the project and all the various scopes of work. And right now, for the regional apparent load subcontractors, we're able to hire 43%. Or we're looking to hire 43% here locally. So the values for approval is for the guaranteed maximum price for the construction contract value is $6,707,454, with a total project budget with all the permits, design fees, utility impact fees of $7,667,976. End of our presentation. Yes.
On the
local contractor side of it, how is that advertised?
So that gets advertised, when we reached out to the subcontractors to let them have interest in the project, we reached out to the Chamber of Commerce and put a bidding position in there. We reached out to the newspapers, and when we actually go out to, we also use Criba for all the subcontractors that have their databases here locally. When we receive all of the letters of contractors who are interested in bidding a project, we use a project or a program called Building Connected, where we basically manage the entire bid process.
And how does the cost of this project compare to others that you have done in the past?
Well, if you go back to the slide that has all the different breakouts of the project, there's a lot of different components that go into this project.
Right.
We just got done doing a track and field project for Scottsdale Unified School District, where we did 3 of these projects. So the actual components that were equivalent, the cost comparison is very similar. So what we did there, we didn't do grandstands or press boxes or a concession stand or parking lots, but the actual track and field component was the equivalent cost of that.
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
Have you met with the athletic booster club to see that the design of the concession stand suits their needs?
We've had discussions through the school district staff, and they have met with mostly the inventory equipment, what they do.
I'm looking at things like delivery of soda and how they guests can serve their public coming up to high food and things like that.
That's all been through staff.
And the other question is, I wasn't paying a lot of attention. I saw the line field, but I'm assuming, of course, that it's football, but also for soccer and.
That's permanent soccer.
I'm trying to pull that attachment up that you sent out. Did it include in that spreadsheet that you sent out the annual field cost, the maintenance cost for the field? Not in that spreadsheet. Do we know what that is? What that's estimated to be?
Within our contract, the subcontractor who will be awarded has included a 4-year maintenance agreement within their contract. And after that, they could work with you to determine what the maintenance would be after that 4-year period.
Is there a projected lifespan for these?
Yeah, I believe the field itself was 12 years, 10 to 12 years. Yeah, and the track would have to get resurfaced every 6 years, and then after 20 years, it would have to be fully replaced all the way down to the base. So.
And the project that you did with Scottsdale Unified, you said 3 schools. Are those facilities open to the public, or
yes,
they can get in there at any time?
Yep, on Saturdays they open it up to the community who can want.
On Saturdays only?
It may be weekday nights too, but I do Saturday mornings. That's what the director was telling me. But essentially the same track product and the same turf product that we installed for Scottsdale is what the team has determined that they would like to install out there. So that's what's included in the
Can you give us kind of an insight into that product?
Into that product? So the turf product is actually by Field Turf, is the manufacturer. It has a cool fill material that within the infill that is supposed to keep the temperature of the field down, since the rubber in the sun does get relatively hot. We also have booster cannons, or water cannons with a booster pump that will get installed with the GMP. That will also enable you to wet down the field, and that will substantially lower the temperature of the field. It's a 52 ounce field turf product. I think it was 52 ounces, right?
Yeah, it's 2 ounces, an inch and a half on the infill. Right. Mixture of rubber and field. Right. So they have a called GMAX standard, which is the impact. This is under 800 max, and this is under 800. And it's going to keep you 800. And then part of that maintenance deal that they improve the field that maintains the GMAX. And also, Mike had mentioned that the equipment to improve the field is included.
Correct.
So the district will own that equipment to maintain the field themselves if they choose to do that.
Correct.
And I've looked at the product online, so I'm asking questions I already know.
Okay, sure.
But it's a 2.5-inch blade, if memory serves me. And as far as overall performance and quality for something like soccer or football, this is the top of the line out of field turfs. Cadre of different products that they have.
Correct.
The 6-year maintenance without trying to project inflation, what would you say that was going to cost us?
He didn't give me a breakout value. He just said he would include it. So I don't know how much he had within his within that. Bid that he gave us.
I mean, I know I read about warranty, but I don't know what it was. 8 years.
5 years on track.
Those are standard.
Oh,
What's the track composition? Is it a standard composite? Is it latex?
Yeah, it's a half inches of latex, and then it's got 2 layers of red structural spray on all year.
So it's a rubber latex track, all year structural.
I've seen articles on the news about some of the artificial tracks that, or artificial fields that have small pieces of rubber that are loose. Is that on this, or it's not?
No, this is just have the red structural spray on top. Yeah.
The fill on the turf is loose.
Yes.
So it's just like football on Sunday when you watch those guys get tackled, you see the spray.
So I saw the article that they referenced that was down in Phoenix, and they said there was some health considerations of the small rubber, specific, it was soccer teams specifically they talked about, but they were worried about the students ingesting some of the rubber components.
Yeah. Some of the older products, there's been issues with that. The manufacturers now have incorporated antimicrobials within the infill and the blade products to make sure that there's not MRSA or whatever some of those previous
Rubber infill is actually virgin rubber. It's not recycled tires. It's actually
So nobody's going to be turning black because they still have the
correct.
You have a question?
Yeah.
Just for the class of 2018, we graduate in 3 months, so I was just curious where we're going to graduate if our track is being demolished.
We have plans for that, Mr. Mayor. We were thinking we were just going to go another school. We do have, we have a plan for that. We did make arrangements with the Havasu 95 Speedway. Their facility is larger than, seats more individuals than what our current facility can seat. It's the largest venue in town that we could procure and have graduation without traveling a great distance. So that is the plan at this time, is to hold graduation off-site out at the Speedway. That was the next best venue that we can move and relocate to.
Question.
Yes, sir.
The question on AstroTurf as opposed to natural grass, obviously the longevity there, but what about performance compared to grass? Is it better performing and safer? I've heard both as far as listening to the NFL anyways. they have both, so.
It's actually more consistent, because you have a uniform surface, and if they wear the right shoes, they actually have the same feel. It has rebound, give, cushion when you fall, and so it plays really well. It has to be maintained. You have to groom the field regularly to maintain that performance. But overall, as compared to a wet, muddy field or a worn-out field from being overplayed, it's actually a superior surface in the long run.
So there's give, if they're not going to stick to it, people just say rolls an ankle and everything.
No, it actually, because it has more deeper fill than a lot of the surfaces, it actually gives more of that feel for playing and rebound on your feet. And then there's the G-Max, so when you actually hit the turf, it cushions you.
One of the things I found, and I did a little bit of research on artificial turf. University of Pennsylvania has a really good website that explains a lot about the different types of artificial turf and impact, injuries, statistics, those types of things. NFL's done a lot of research on it. But this is the same product that they put in the University of Arizona. This is the same product that they put in Kansas as well. This is going in colleges where they don't want their athletes hurt, where there is a likelihood that the people you're watching on the field will get up into the NFL level. So this is right now, this is state of the art, this is the premier product. This is the good stuff. This is not your grandfather's astroturf.
It's not astroturf ball. Field turf.
Can I just speak to that? Just so you know that we're not just throwing darts at a board with this product. We did have a few of our district staff tour some facilities in Phoenix earlier this month, actually the very beginning of the month, where we toured 4 sites total. 2 had the competitor product, and then 2 had the field turf that we're proposing to go with. And there was a noticeable difference when you look at the 2 products and you stand on it. I'm not saying the other product wasn't good, but we felt there was pretty much a consensus that this particular product that we're going with was not only did it look like it would be durable for us, and especially in this climate, but it was very much close to the natural look of grass that you could get. The other product looked like, and there, again, no disrespect to that, but it looked like carpet. Whereas this product that we're proposing to go with actually looked like blades of grass. Very, very well done. We looked at the finished work of it and just the finished product, and looking at schemes and looking at how things were structured and laid out. We felt, again, just by our own observations, because I'm the type of person that knows that people are going to ask, did you go look at it? And I can honestly say, yes, we did. We stepped on it, we toured it, we looked at it, we were down on our knees looking at the details of how it was placed, and this was our recommendation. So I feel pretty confident that the product, as Mr. Masden suggested, this is going to be a nice facility. We could do a lot more, but obviously we don't have the budget for that already. The price is getting high, but this is what I believe the community was promised.
Yeah.
And we're going to deliver.
This is exactly what we looked at when we had our original meeting, the original presentation. We're given what we said we would.
No, and I think that's important. I mean, obviously, this isn't 1.53 million, which is what we had an estimate for when we put the bond package together. And, regardless of how we got to 1.53 million back in the day, we owe it to our community to do things the right way. We owe it to our community to deliver what we said we would deliver. I can tell you that and our newspaper has written about this. We've saved about $2 million today off of other bond projects that can go into this. This is going to hurt a little bit. It's going to be a little bit of a rearrangement to get some things done. And, you know, maybe we look at the baseball fields a little bit differently, the softball fields a little differently as we approach those projects. It's not that we devalue them, but I'll look at, okay, do we repurpose a light as opposed to buying a light? Do we go with natural turf as opposed to artificial turf down there now that we have a practice field and people aren't practicing football in the baseball outfield? These may be some natural trade-offs that we have on cost. But I think it's important for me to point out that we're being very serious up here. We're not trying to spend money willy-nilly. We're not trying to overblow it. We're going to take what is now Lee Barton Stadium and we're going to return it to what was the state-of-the-art back in the 70s when it was built, but we're doing it to a modern standard. And I think that at the end of it, I think that we'll have a nice facility. We will not have a facility where we're kind of looking at it now and going, well, don't walk on the track because you might get hurt. Watch out for that piece of fence over there because that piece of fence is rusty and getting ready to fall apart. But we're not building Taj Mahal either. We're not building this top-of-the-line, super expensive in the grand scheme of things. I'm not saying that $7 million is a lot of money, but we're not building this top-level thing either. And I think we're doing it in a way that's going to help our community down the road when we do things like graduation, when we think of football game attendance. I've heard little bits and pieces here. Our other schools don't want to come play us because of our field condition. I mean, it really is an issue for us as a community. And don't forget, you know, we're going to stay Relay for Life on this field, well, could, if it weren't under construction. But this is where we hold things like Relay for Life. This is a community-used item as well. It's not just a football field. So, am I disappointed that we didn't get the number right? Absolutely. But I think everybody up here at the dais is absolutely interested in making sure that we deliver the project and we deliver all of the rest of the projects that we want as well. So don't look at this as a victory or a defeat. Look at this as we're going to go forward and deliver what we promised.
Could you just quickly go back to the logistics plan, so just so we can see how the scope changed as well? That also contributed to this. The purple area on your left was separated by the walkway there. That's an add-on. That was originally supposed to be in the 2020 bond issuance, but because of the water retention issues, and perhaps you could speak to that, but I can summarize. We have some serious drainage issues to deal with the area to the right. And all of that water that will pool there, or that now currently does, will be diverted down and will have to be diverted down to that lower section. So we have to develop that lower field area during this 2017 bond issuance. We had to move that forward so that we could complete. Originally, we were just trying to basically put a dividing line there saying this is 2017 and this is 2020. But because of the water retention and drainage issues, we had to merge those areas together. We have to complete that lower end in order to fulfill the drainage requirements and the needs that we have. So we had to push that into 2017, which then leaves that white section down near the bottom for 2020. So we are moving. We're not asking for more money. We're not. Yeah. The bond dollars are the bond dollars. We're working within what the community gave us a year ago. We're just now having to reorganize the timing of that and the reallocation of some of those dollars to fulfill a need in this project. So the project did get bigger. And the price tag went up too, but that's not a $6 million add-on over there either. So
we had just a little over $500,000 budget.
In order to do this right, it has to be done this way. We can't cut it. It's not.
Nor should we.
No. It has to be done.
Your facility on Havasu High School next day, as far as quality of the facility.
I'd just like to commend everybody who spoke tonight. I think that anytime you get into a construction situation of this size, you are gonna have modification. You're gonna have things that are gonna pop up. And I admire the fact that the board and Mr. Murray are bringing it up and showing you what those adjustments are, what are needed, repairs and fixes are to the original contract. And this is something we said when we ran for office. We're gonna try to be as transparent with the public as we can, so that you know what's going on. That doesn't mean you're always gonna love what's going on, but at least you'll know.
I want to add one thing that the city's been really helpful with this also, maybe some concessions in order to help with the budget.
All right. There's nothing further, Terry, you'll call the vote.
Alan Ward,
Yes.
Abby Cox, Paul Cohen,
Yes.
Pat Rooney,
Yes.
John Manston,
Yes. Okay, item 6.2, thank you, Jim. Mr. Murray, that is yours. Mr. President, members of the board, it is recommended the governing board approve the purchase of 500 student chairs at a price not to exceed $31,000. Many of our student chairs are cracked or broken and need to be replaced for student safety. A bulk order of chairs has not been placed for classrooms in more than 15 years due to a decrease in both unrestricted capital and the elimination of soft capital funds. Warehouse and procurement staff conducted a visual assessment in each building to confirm the need and determine the distribution of the chairs. Chairs will be distributed to elementary 6th grade classes based on the percentage of 6th graders at each site. The chairs will be purchased through Arizona Furnishings per the attached quote. Arco Bell is the manufacturer, and the chairs have a lifetime warranty. Arizona Furnishings is under a MESC purchasing contract, and funds to pay for this purchase will come from the sale of surplus items, Fund 506. And the item has been reviewed by purchasing. Motion 6.2.
Make a motion, we approve 6.2.
Any discussion on 6.2?
I'd just like to ask Mr. Murray, are we setting up a facilities vocational program where we're not waiting 15 years to order chairs?
That is the plan. Yes, we are in the process of doing that.
I just wanted to ask.
The next item that will come before you in the upcoming months will be desks. So we are, like, and this is the plan, really. We're conducting assessments, we're looking at our needs, and then we're trying to fulfill those needs. Now, the good chairs, let me mention that are currently in these classrooms, because there are many good chairs still in these classrooms, will be then reallocated within that building. We're not going to move them, but we'll take those chairs that are in need of basically being thrown away because they're past the ability to be repaired anymore. Those will be disposed of. So we're trying to set up, as you mentioned, a rotation so we don't have to do this.
Yeah, it'd be a lot nicer to see something here that says we need $5,000, you know? Yeah, that's fine.
And we've already got the money in 506. Yeah. We're going to do just the same way. We're going to try to do this. We're trying to protect our capital dollars as much as we can because we don't get very much of it. So we're trying to find money in other areas. Like, that's the purpose of this. We sell items and we bank the money and then we're able to purchase other items. Any other questions for Mr. Murray on the item before us?
Now, will somebody be calling and contacting Mr. Schmidt and telling him to take down his GoFundMe account?
Abby Cox, Paul Cohen,
Yes.
Alan Ward,
Yes.
Pat Rooney, John Simpson. Oh, sorry. John Manston.
Item 6.3, elimination moratorium on additional tax credit clubs and activities. Mr. Murray.
Mr. President, members of the board, it is recommended the governing board eliminate a moratorium on the addition of new tax credit clubs and activities applicable to all Lake Havasu Unified School District schools that was put into effect on January 20th, 2015. In January 2015, due to budget constraints, the Lake Havasu Unified School District Governing Board deemed it necessary to suspend the addition of new tax credit clubs, activities at district schools. This moratorium was approved and became effective immediately. It is recommended the moratorium be eliminated due to certain events that have taken place since January of 2015, namely the passage of an override and bond election. Additionally, certain CTE classes at the Lake Havasu High School require the addition of a club to obtain funding. If approved, the moratorium on the additional tax credit extracurricular activities and/or clubs would be lifted immediately. And based on previous comments from members of the governing board, the district also proposes the use of internal district forms pertaining to the addition, deletion, and review of extracurricular clubs and activities utilizing the proposed tax credit funds. Comments, clarifications, and expectations from the governing board regarding the use of these forms and information to be presented would be appreciated. I know we have several principals that would like to receive clarification.
Do I have a motion on 6.3?
I'll make a motion on 6.3 as written.
Do I have a second? Discussion.
So I just want to clarify, our elementary schools will now be able to petition for a tax credit class.
And I'll reiterate what I said before, that the board will be responsible to see to it that these clubs meet the maximum utilization in the district. You're going away with a moratorium, but it doesn't mean that everything is going to be approved.
I kind of see this as not opening up the floodgate, but I see this as field trips. I see this as homework clubs. I see this as very targeted, very specific things that are elementary schools that will help them. And my own personal thought process is I don't see us hurting a football player by sending a child on a science trip out of town. I think that both are very valuable for the education of the student. We've allowed the high school to have, and I'm not picking on the high school, but we've allowed the high school to run an educational tour group out of the country. And we're here now talking about whether or not we can do field trips and homework clubs. And I think there's a higher value to a field trip and a homework club than there is to an educational tour group. I'm not saying anything bad about either one of them. So I think it's going to be targeted when we open this up. I think it's going to be very specific. I don't see this as opening up the floodgates. And I think that at the end of it, we've never had a moratorium. We've always had, well, you can bring this or you can bring that when we've needed to do things for the CPE classes over at the high school. They've been able to have been brought. That's not a moratorium. A moratorium is a complete cessation of an activity. Nothing new added ever is what I read moratorium to be. So I see it as a good thing. I see it as let's open it up, let's be reasonable adults about it, and let's figure out how we move forward.
Okay,
let's do that. So, anything else on it? Jerry, if you call for the vote.
Nicole Cohen?
Yes.
Pat Rooney?
Yes.
Alan Ward?
Yes.
Kathy Fox?
Yes.
John Maston?
Yes. Item 6.4, approval for employee benefit trust to request applicants for board of trustees. Mr. Murray.
Mr. President, members of the board, it is recommended the governing board approve the release of a request for applicants for 2 EBT board positions whose terms will be July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2021. In alignment with Arizona Revised Statute 15-382C, The amended agreement and restated declaration of the Lake Havasu Unified School District EBT Trust Agreement provides the trust will be administered by either 5 or 7 voting trustees appointed by the LHUSC governing board. The trust agreement stipulates that EBT trustees serve a 3-year term, and with the restated agreement may only serve from this point forward 2 consecutive 3-year terms. 2 current EBT trustees' terms end in June 2018. This action would allow administration to begin the recruitment process to fill the 2 positions. Current members may reapply as well as new applicants. The governing board will follow the policy EIC self-insurance programs for the Employee Benefit Trust adopted October 17, 2017. And then you see there the current EBT board trustees as follows, and their expiring terms.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion on 6.4.
Make a motion we approve 6.4.
Second.
Do we have any discussion on that? Hearing none, Terry, if you call the vote.
Pat Rooney,
Yes.
Alan Ward,
Yes.
Kathy Fox, Nicole Cohen,
Yes.
John Maston,
Yes. Item 6.5 is the approval of amendments to the intergovernmental agreement between Lake Havasu Unified School District and Lake Havasu City for joint use of publicly owned facilities and equipment. Superintendent Cyrus.
President Madsen, members of the board, it is recommended that the governing board approve the amendment in the intergovernmental agreement referred to as the IGA between the Lake Havasu Unified School District No. 1 and Lake Havasu City regarding the joint use of publicly owned facilities and equipment. The purpose of the revision to this IGA is to clarify processes and communication in Section 1, to generalize the descriptions of communities to reduce future revisions in Section 2, to reflect changes in the radio system in Section 5, and to eliminate Section 6 as it is no longer necessary. This IGA has been reviewed and approved by District Legal Counsel and by Lake Havasu City Legal Counsel, and this was approved by the Lake Havasu City Council on February the 13th.
I'll entertain a motion on 6.5. Second. Discussion.
No questions.
It's really mostly housekeeping is all it is. There's no discussion, Terry, if we'll call for the vote.
Alan Ward,
Yes.
Kathy Fox, Nicole Cohen,
Yes.
Pat Rooney,
Yes.
John Maston,
Yes. Item 6.6 is the first presentation and review of policies IJNDBA, IJNDBAR, and IJNDBAE website accessibility. Mrs. Meyer.
Mr. President and members of the board, it is recommended that the board approve the first presentation of the new policy as aforementioned. Per Arizona School Boards Association Policy Services Advisory dated February 2017 and received March 15, the following policy revisions will be presented. Policy Advisory Number 576, Policy IJNDBA, Website Accessibility. This is a new policy addressing website accessibility. The district should compose a website accessibility concerns and complaints form related to the accessibility of websites developed or maintained by the district. The form should include identification, information, date, description of the problem, location of the inaccessible site, and the solution suggested. A concern or complaint may be made by completing the form provided by the district. All such communications shall be forwarded to the staff member or consultant designated by the superintendent. Each concern or complaint will be processed, and the person initiating the communication will receive a timely response, including the provision of access to the website information requested. And although we did receive this advisory in February of 2017, we did have until January of 2018 to make sure this was in place. And now with our new website, Host School Insights, and Gina Flores on board, they're making sure that we are website accessible.
I'll entertain a motion on 6.6.
Make a motion we approve 6.6 as presented.
Second.
Any discussion on 6.6? discussion, Terry, if you'll call for the vote.
Kathy Cox?
Yes.
Nicole Cohen?
Yes.
Pat Rooney?
Yes.
Alan Ward?
Yes.
John Baston?
Yes. I handed a note to explain 5-0 votes for the students in the room. We do a work session the week prior to the actual board meeting where we go through this and we can actually, put staff ask questions where we don't vote. So a lot of what we do is actually fleshed out in those work sessions. So when you see a 5-0 vote, we've got our heads around it, we've thought it through, and we're all in agreement on it. Doesn't mean it happens every time, but tonight we seem to we feel a lot of it. So,
And the work sessions.
the work sessions are public. So item 6.7, adoption of a district discipline philosophy statement. Mrs. Asada.
Thank you. Mr. President, members of the board, it is recommended that the governing board adopt a district discipline philosophy statement. Our recommendation is that we adopt the discipline philosophy statement developed by the discipline subcommittee. This philosophy statement will be used to guide the revisions to the board's policies related to student conduct and discipline. The statement will also be included in the student handbooks and will be the guiding philosophy for handbook revisions in the areas of conduct and discipline. We had several members of the community who served on this committee, and they have developed the following statement. Lake Havasu Unified School District students are expected to support their school by helping to maintain a safe, positive, and participatory learning environment. This ensures each student has the opportunity to develop the academic and social skills necessary to become responsible citizens and contributing members of society. Expectations for student support of our schools include acting with respect, integrity, and humanity, attending and engaging in class, and demonstrating behavior at all times that is considerate of other students, teachers, staff, parents, and community members. When student conduct does not meet these expectations, LHUSD schools will resolve behavioral incidents through appropriate interventions and additional opportunities to learn the skills necessary to shape positive behavior. LHUSD will identify the core standards that define our expectations, providing clear parameters and structure. This provides the foundation of a school environment that creates positivity, accountability, and opportunities for success for all students, engaging each student with a focus on scholarship, character, and humanity.
Okay. I will entertain a motion on 6.7.
I make a motion to approve 6.7.
Second. Okay, discussion. The cat's in the bag.
This is a work in progress, and hopefully over the next few years we'll limit the number of words. But it does say what we need to be said. So.
And I just wanted to, are we going to be able to bring back, are we going to do a work session before our next board meeting over defining scholarship character?
Yeah. I would like to mention that one of the things that the committee looked at is our newly adopted mission statement. It's not that new, but it's certainly in the process of being rolled out. And looking to align our statement with what our board's mission is. So you'll hear some of that language incorporated in the statement. We also wanted to very much reflect the idea that we want students to learn how to behave well, how to provide positive behavior teaching, but also still be held accountable for their actions, and then continuing to learn how to behave in school, in society for the future. The idea was to move away from the concept of zero tolerance, the same punishment for every student, that it becomes very much individualized based on the student and
Is that how I
always was remembered. You know, tolerance is misnomer. It stands for something else, but it's never been done in our
don't have it. Well, we want to.
do some word searching while we were sitting here? If you can do that.
Does anybody need any words changed, anything they disagree with within the statement?
No, as I said, I think it says what the discipline committee wanted to say, in line with our vision statement. I just think it might have been said with less words, but that's.
I kind of look at it, I agree with you that you could probably condense some of that. And there are probably a couple of words I would probably look at and choose to wordsmith a little bit. But I think the point is a valid one. We need to have expectations of our students on how they behave. And we need to remember that we're an educational institution. Part of learning is learning how to behave and how to interact with your fellow students and classmates. And that carries you well into the working world and beyond. We talked about the educational opportunities with the tour group earlier, and I just see this as just another area where we have the ability to teach and influence our students. And so I personally think that, while I would agree with Mr. Ward that we could probably condense it, I think it's a good statement of where we're
Work in progress. We can change it next year if we want.
Certainly, and this is a recommendation to the board. It wasn't necessarily intended to be the final recommendation, but it was what the committee felt reflected how we should respond as a district in terms of student contact.
Any further discussion? Okay, Jerry.
Nicole Colon?
Yes.
Kathy Cox? Yes. Alan Ward?
Yes.
Pat Rooney?
Yes.
John Maston?
Yes. 6.8, approval of the comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year of 2016-17, better known as our annual. Mr. Mold.
Mr. President, members of the board, it is recommended the governing board approve the comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year 2016-17. The Lake Havasu Unified School District is required to obtain an annual financial audit because the district expends $750,000 or more in federal awards, subject to the requirements of the Single Audit Act amendments of 1996 and the implementing regulations of the Office of Management and Budget. The audit firm of Heinfeld and Beach has provided their final report. The report has been sent electronically for your review, and copies of the report will be provided to the Arizona Department of Education and the Auditor General's office. The public may request an electronic copy of the audit from the superintendent's office, and a permanent copy of the report will be kept on file in the business office for future reference. I have a short 3-slide overview.
First, let's get a motion and second on 6.8.
I make a motion, we approve 6.8 as presented.
Okay.
I'm sorry, who seconded? Thank you.
Mr. Murray, if you'll.
Just for a visual, the report is pretty thick, so it will be on the website. It will also be a copy in my office, and as mentioned, there's an electronic version available for public. Just kind of giving you just a real quick kind of look into the report without actually looking at it. There are areas in which the report describes the city and community demographics, so there's a lot of just reporting on the overall not only health and stability of the district, but it also expands out and talks about the community in the city. It recognizes past performances of other annual financial reports, any awards that were given. It also provides an overview of basic accounting principles and how the audit team conducts their audits and what they look for. So there's a lot of summarization, a lot of write-up in it, and then there's also a lot of spreadsheets where you look at actual numbers as they fall within the different accounting codes. So for the sake of this group, I'm not keeping you here until tomorrow morning. This is very short. So this happens to be a pie chart that they include in the report, and this is pretty important because it gives you a quick snapshot as to where the district expends their funds, where the expenditures lie. So if you're looking at this pie chart, think of salaries, benefits, purchase services, supplies, debt service. Think of all of that as they relate to the certain sections here, the individual sections within this pie chart. So the first area is instruction. We spent 57% of the district's money of all funds that the district received in the area of instruction. And that, if you look at the top there, it says activities dealing directly with the interaction between teachers and students. And then down below, I just have some real, just a couple examples of what that may be. So teacher salaries, classroom supplies, paraprofessionals, teacher aides that are in the classroom. So there's a lot more than that, but that just kind of allows you to focus in on that piece of the pie. The second area, support services, where we have students and staff, there's 10% of the money went to, of our expenditures fell into that area. And support services for students and staff, those are activities designed to assess and improve the students' well-being and supplement the teaching process. Some areas are paying for counselors, therapists, psychologists, our IT techs fall under that area. But then there's also professional development. There's other things which would fall into that piece of the pie as well. The third area is support services and administration. We spent 12% of the district funds in that area. These are activities dealing directly with the administrative responsibility of the central office and schools. We're talking about administrators, administrative assistants, office assistants, supervisors. There's also governing board allowance there for various needs for administrative purposes, talking about printing services. A lot of those are some examples of what would fall under that 12% area of support services for administration. Operation and maintenance of plant. We have 11% of the district funds expended in that area. These are activities concerned with keeping the physical plant open, comfortable, and safe for use. The verbiage that I'm using up there, by the way, is out of the USFR chart of accounts. So that is actually out of an adopted USFR account structure in which all districts in the state of Arizona have to follow. Examples of what the 11% of the operation and maintenance of plant services would include. We're talking about utilities, maintenance personnel, maintenance of vehicles, equipment, anything related to machinery that has to be maintained. Any district, we're not talking about student transportation vehicles, we're talking about personnel vehicles used for, like in our maintenance department, and equipment, lawn mowers, all of those things. 4% was spent in the student transportation services section. These are activities concerned with conveying students to and from school and trips to school activities. Examples are transportation vehicles, maintenance of these vehicles, fuel for the vehicles, transportation personnel, being our bus drivers, our mechanics. They would fall under that area of student transportation services. So 4% of the funds that the district received went to that area. Operation of non-instructional services, 6% went to this area. These are activities associated with the overall administration of food service operations. Food services, personnel, equipment, anything pertaining to the food service area, 6% was spent in that area. And then the last area, less than 1%, these are activities associated with servicing long-term debt. And we're talking about the solar project, and we did have some money in there, interest money in there for the bus barn, which is now retired. That's been paid off. So in future years, that will be part of that. So kind of going around the circle, I don't know how helpful that was, but at least I wanted to just do a quick summary as to what that means. So if you do look at that, if you're interested as to where the district is spending their money and what those indicators mean, that's just a quick overview of what that means.
We have paid off the solar project.
No, the bus stop.
I thought you said something about the solar project, and you mentioned that and money had been used to pay off the bus bar. I must have misunderstood.
No, we have the solar project as an example of the interest that we're paying in long-term debt. We did have some bus barn interest mixed in with last year's $16, $17, but because the bus barn is now paid off, we won't see that in the future.
I didn't think this was not that.
No, I wish, but no, we haven't paid that off yet.
Just as a question, because you know I like to compare things, did the auditor give us any idea if these percentages were a par for the state or something that you could key in on?
They don't, in the report, they don't mention that, they don't give us comparables, but on the Auditor General's website, you can look up any district and they'll show you where they're spending their money. And we're right in line, if not actually a little bit better. When we look at construction and support services, we're, based on that pie chart, we're pushing 67% of our funds into classrooms. If you take some of the administration expenses, we're pushing a little bit more in there too. And you need to have educational leaders in your buildings that are driving professional development, they're evaluating teachers. So in my mind, I even look at that, saying we're pushing some of that into the classroom as well. So I believe in comparison, we're just a little north, a little above where the average would be.
One of the things that I always hear online is, and just in passing, is how bad the district pays in administrative costs. And what I see there at 12%, that's pretty darn close to charity's acceptable overhead for administration. I don't think you can get it too much tighter than that. There's always room for improvement, but that's pretty darn tight on administrative costs.
I only brought it up because if there was a comparison, and let's say some school in Phoenix showing much better numbers, it would give you a cue to get on the phone and see what they're doing, you know?
There's a volume proposition when you throw Phoenix in there as well, because the bigger the district, the more manageable some of those numbers become.
Included in the performance audits, as I mentioned on the Attorney General's website, they themselves give recommendations as to how to adjust some of those figures. If they're labeling a certain percentage as being too high or too low, they'll make a recommendation as to how to correct that. And they'll point out where you're possibly have a shortfall or you're overextending, and they'll point out where and why. So they offer recommendations in those areas. But that's a totally different, that's a performance audit. This is just your regular annual question. But you can marry them together. And then the last slide, just pointing out some highlights in the top. They did point out that we do have carry forward, which is nice because that means our expenses do not exceed our revenues. That's always a good thing when you're bringing in more money than you're spending. So we do have some carry forward that is a highlight. The internal service fund, which is the EBT, that increased from the year before to 1.9 million from the prior year, which is good because we had increased contributions and lower claims, so that helps the overall health of the EBT. We still have room to go, but we're moving in the right direction when you compare it to the year just before that. We are conducting monthly reconciliations with our EBT. So again, another highlight. We did have an audit exception a couple years in a row for not having monthly reconciliations with our employee benefit trust, but that has been corrected. Just some recommendations. You'll recall that the auditors were here on November 2nd. They had a closeout meeting with us, and they were standing in this room. They pointed out a couple areas in which they were recommending that we take a look at and improve. One of them was reconciliations with the county. We had staff turnover in our accounting department. We now have a stable individual in there who's been with us for some time, and they're not looking to leave anytime soon. does a fantastic job. And to improve the recording and the communication between the county and the district. And all of that has occurred. We're actually reconciling to the county and also reconciling to the treasurer. So we're trying to create a perfect triangle there so that all of us, if we do spot any inconsistencies or areas in which there is a concern, the three of us can communicate and then we reconcile appropriately together. So major improvements in that area. Also, they recommended for our staff to be trained. They mentioned mini audits where we go around to school sites and conduct our own mini audits on site with district staff. We did begin that implementation. We are conducting regular site audits. They are going out at least on a weekly basis, and it's actually quite enjoyable to watch. We get feedback when they come in, and they're excited with being able to help each other out, and when they do spot inconsistencies or areas that need to be improved, we're addressing it immediately and not waiting for an audit to come around, a formal audit to address those areas. So we're hopeful that many things will improve just by implementing the mini audits and trying to correct errors rather than just letting them go and letting the auditor. And that's all I have.
Questions from Mr. Murray?
Right there.
Pat Rooney?
Yes.
Alan Ward?
Yes.
Kathy Cox? Nicole Collins?
Yes.
Brian Massey?
Yes. Item 6.9, approval of sole source wisdom project. Superintendent Simon.
Thank you, President Nelson, members of the board. It is recommended that the governing board approve Project Wisdom Inc. as the sole source for the proprietary Project Wisdom Inc. products for all K-12 district schools. As a scientific background, we recently received an application for Title IV grant funding, which is safe and drug-free schools, for a small amount of money that can be used for school culture, increasing safety, etc. And so we were looking at something that could consistently reinforce the discipline philosophy statement in thinking about values and how do we reinforce positive values and behavior on campuses. And so Project Wisdom is the only authorized dealer that can sell or distribute the following products: Project Wisdom Series 1, Series 2, Series 3, as well as the educator site and Beyond the Infraction. Project Wisdom encourages students to reflect on the meaning of civic and personal values and the application of those values in their daily lives. While there are 3 components to this program, we are looking at the first component, which is referred to as For the Campus, Project Wisdom Online Library of Broadcast Messages. The centerpiece of the program is a series of thought-provoking, inspirational messages that would be shared over a PA or in-house television system. Because this is a sole source provider for this, a sole source affidavit was provided by Suzanne Johnson, Vice President and Authorized Agent for Project Wisdom, Inc. on January 30th, 2018. This purchase will be funded under Title IV-A once it is approved by the Arizona Department of Education and will be written into the district's integrated action plan. This item has been reviewed by purchasing on January 30th, 2018. I know during the work session, I did provide some information to the board, particularly some samples of some announcements. And so I do have those here for anybody in the public who is interested as well.
Okay, do I have a motion on 6.9?
I make a motion to accept 6.9 as written.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to reiterate what I said during the work session, that we need to be extremely careful that we don't adopt too many of these programs where we place too large a burden on our administrative staff. But it's not our job to tell the administration how to run the school. As a result, I'm going to vote for this. I think it's important that we understand we can get too many of these things that are grant funded until we've just laid a burden upon our principals and our administration.
So we're gonna incorporate this into our integrated action plan?
Just under the culture and climate, that there would be a resource available to do morning announcements.
Okay.
Yes.
So I know that there's all three, so I just want to reiterate a few things too, because most people weren't at the work session. So we're only going to use this for morning announcements. That's
Morning announcements is the intention, yes.
the intention.
There is one principal who is interested in using some of their follow-up materials for in-school suspension for elementary students who have misbehaved, which is a chance for them to think about what are the values that they've not followed or not utilized. Or
If any of our principals were going to use it and use the curriculum piece of it, there's a curriculum piece, right?
Right, that's for the
Lesson
classroom
plans?
lesson plans. That was this is not for in-classroom.
Okay.
lesson plans, right.
But if they were, would that come back to the board?
No,
Or
actually,
if we approve this, we're approving it.
if we're approving access to the entire component, our recommendation is based on the online library.
So I don't like this program for my own reasons, but I think it's good to talk about what those reasons are right now, because I did go to the website and I did search as much as I could, because I couldn't actually get into it. But I did look at their partners and whatnot. So I have a problem with a lot of what we have in our schools, although we haven't had an opportunity to vet it out like this, because there's this push to make all of our students world citizens, and that is a problem for me. Everywhere I turn, we're teaching our kids how to be global citizens and world citizens, when we are, in my opinion, denying our kids, the experience of being a U.S. citizen and truly understanding our U.S. history. So for that reason, I'm going to vote against it, but this is why. I understand why we're bringing this in, or why the principals would even want to use this, to have something for kids. We've had this conversation. We know that there's kids in this community that don't have any of these positive reinforcements that start the day out with that kind of announcement. I understand that. But we're heading down that curriculum path, and so that makes me concerned. I'll leave it at that.
I understand the concern. I really do. There's a lot of things that go on in the world that you kind of look at the source and kind of go, gosh, where is this leading? But on the other end of this, when we get to the morning announcements, and I read through the sample scripts and I look at the base level of what those morning announcements have for content.
Yes.
I see a chance to do some reinforcement on character education. And when I look at that, I think that there's more good gleaned out of this than bad over the course of the student's career at Lake Havasu Unified School District. We're so prone to a sound bite. This is very sound bitey in the way that it's put together. And I don't see anything wrong in telling the student that, gosh, go out and make it a great day. Or here's the golden rule, or here's this part of this thought process, and to do it without an ideology attached to it, because that's what we're tasked to do in the way that things work nowadays. So I share your concern, but I think in the limited way that we're intending to use this, I think we're going to be okay. And one question that I have for Superintendent Desire is, this is a one-year contract?
Correct. This is a one-year contract. At the inception of the program, which was in the early 90s, it was just the broadcast messages. It's why they call it the centerpiece. And those were provided to you in notebooks on paper. And so what we have agreed with our principals is that they will download and create a notebook of announcements that will then go on for as long as they need them, but the actual online access to them is only for this 1 year.
Okay. So if nobody touches the other pieces of this, pieces 2 and 3 of this, then we wouldn't have access to that after the year.
As I said, it's not our job to decide what's best for administration. But I do really think we need to realize that intentions are wonderful. But that doesn't tell us what this might evolve into 5 years from now. You know, we may be using it for announcements this year. They decide to renew it next year, the following year, and all of a sudden, the curriculum's installed into the system. I'm just warning that there's true potential for that. And we all too often look at things and say, this is paid by grant, and gee whiz, it's great. So we don't stop to think about what is the potential.
How do you measure the success of something like this? You know, we're talking about, you know, the character and all that, those type of values are supposed to be developed in the home and reinforced in the schools. But how do you measure whether this is being successful?
You know, it's always going to be an indirect measure because, you know, you can't correlate exactly. But typically, the things that you would see anecdotally are the conversations, the ways that students interact with the information. But the second way is actually looking at behavior incidences and referrals. And so, in my own personal experience, for example, if you had something occur and you wanted to reinforce a positive behavior, so perhaps there was a theft, you know, students stole something out of a purse or whatever. And then you might target your announcements for the next couple of weeks on honesty and, you know, doing the right thing. I mean, there's a number of different character traits that you can talk about. Then if you see that there's not a reoccurrence of those behaviors, it could be an indirect correlation to having the big conversation about why it's not okay, as opposed to just assuming that everybody knows it's not okay to steal.
Because, you know, athletics has been doing this for years. Coaches have put a saying up on a wall, and at first it doesn't, you can't understand it, but once you're there often enough that you keep looking at it, it's just like a picture sometimes. You know, when you see a kid, it's like they do on TV when they have those public announcements and the gal's got cancer, she's talking out of her throat or whatever. It's just a little blurb, and it's not a real big program that interrupts instruction. But somewhere along the line, some people are going to look at that and say, hey, I don't want to go through that. So I can see the value in stuff like this, and I've seen that. I just wanted to ask how do you measure that, because it is difficult.
It is difficult to measure. And really, it could be, again, the conversations that you would monitor anecdotally, as well as behavior incidences, the numbers of referrals, and so forth.
I just want to clarify, it's not that I have a problem with the morning announcements, and I think the morning announcements are probably a really good idea. I have a problem with the agendas that are attached to, you know, the background research that I do. So I just want to make that clear. I understand why you want to use this in the morning for announcements, or that all principals would want to do that. But I do have concerns that we have so many character programs. So I don't know how many there are, but I know it's a huge focus, and I can name 3 now off the top of my head. And so it makes me wonder, there's so much emphasis on this. It's not working. It's not working. All this character education for how many years that we've been doing now, it seems to not be working overall. So.
Are you saying in our district it's not working?
I mean, in our society, period.
Not in our district.
Well, no, in our district it's a struggle too. That's why we need the resources.
And we did.
And I'm not saying it's anybody in this room's fault or any teacher's fault. It's the parents' fault. To be honest, that's where it is. It's the parents' fault.
Overwhelming number of great kids.
I'm not saying that we don't have great kids. I really don't want to argue about this. That's not what I'm saying. we can't say we have a problem and then make it sound like I'm saying something bad about our kids or we don't have good kids. We have discipline issues. Every principal will tell you that. Every teacher will tell you that. So we have an issue.
And one of the areas that the discipline committee did look at was all of our data in relation to the number of referrals that students get. And while there are some big things that are happening, it's the day-to-day stuff. It's the bad choices that children are making and students are making that are causing a lot of those referrals. And so this is an opportunity to tie into and reinforce for everyone to hear what to think about when you're making some of your choices.
That really stuck in my head. When you sit in the discipline committee and you hear that there were 6,431 office referrals last year at the high school, the 1,600 students that are rough number, that's astonishing. If you have that many kids going to the office for whatever reason, then when you figure out that 60% of it was for the day-to-day routine stuff, there's got to be a way that we can start chipping away at that and giving our administrators time to deal with the bigger things. And that to me is an astonishing figure, and it speaks that there's something, not in our schools, but I think in society as a whole, that it's dramatically changed when you start seeing what some of those things are for. And, you know, you say character education isn't working. Well, it hasn't worked with what we've tried. We need to keep trying different things and working towards the goal of lowering that 60% down as low as we can get.
Well, we can reevaluate this next year if they decide to reinstate it. I mean, it's not like this is forever, but I just want to bring up the points that we need to consider. The other thing that bothers me to some extent is if I have two principals and one of them uses the pattern or wisdom, but the other one has such good contact with her classes that she gets up and has a morning presentation that's tailor-made to her school. Which one is more effective? And, you know, that's not my decision. But we are going to spend taxpayer money for this. And I think we need to consider that next year when we reevaluate it. Is it more effective than a principal who's in tune with their school?
Further discussion? Okay, Gary.
Alan Ward,
Yes.
Kathy Cox,
Yes.
Nicole Crowley, Pat Rooney,
Yes.
John Maston,
Yes. Okay, 6.10, approval of vouchers, student activity funds, and auxiliary funds. Mr. Musser.
Mr. President, members of the board, it's recommended that the board approve the vouchers for January 2018, student activity funds for K through 12 for December 2017, and auxiliary funds for December 2017.
Can I get a motion on 6.10?
I make a motion we accept it as furnished.
Second. Discussion. Hearing none, Carrie, if you'll call the vote.
Kathy Cox,
Yes.
Nicole Crowley,
Yes.
Alan Ward,
Yes.
Pat Rooney,
Yeah.
John Maston,
Yes. Item 7, informational items. Superintendent Desire.
Thank you. I would like to draw the board's attention to the gifts and donations to the schools. There were a series of large monetary donations from Only Orchids, and those were all intended for art and music support at our schools. Previously, well, let me backtrack. This actual dollars came through the fundraising that was done through the arts and music efforts, and I'm sorry, Mrs. Campbell is the one who is doing that, the Songwriters Festival, et cetera. And they're very specific that they would like that money to go specifically to arts and music. And so in the past, that money came through the Educational Foundation, but now it's coming through Only Orchids. And they actually had a meeting with all of our art and music teachers and offered them the opportunity to think creatively and provide applications for how they might want to spend the funds in a unique way. And so that's how these funds were awarded. and distributed among the various schools and programs. And so I appreciate the Only Orchids group for orchestrating that process and having a meaningful conversation about art and music with all of our teachers. Of course, we always appreciate the donations that we receive from others as well. Our PTSOs have been very active, particularly at Jamaica. And again, our individual donors, even for small amounts, it all makes a difference. And so we do appreciate that. I also wanted to thank publicly all of the members who served on our discipline and curriculum committees. It was a lot of time and a lot of conversation. And I really do truly appreciate that they were willing to give their time to come in and meet and discuss the needs of our community and focus on those. And then finally, I would like to share that we were all so stunned by the tragedy in Florida. And I want to share also with the board and with the public that while we feel very safe in our community and our schools are safe, we don't ever approach this as if it could not happen here. And it's kind of interesting to me because we do hard lockdown drills at least once a quarter. And so one of the things that that will continue to happen, and I'm thinking that perhaps now everybody will pay more attention to those opportunities to practice. But we do practice what to do, and as a team are continually reinforcing how we can maintain safe students and campuses. So share that with the board. That's all I have.
I'd like to ask a question. I'd like to tell the audience that if they've never been over to the art department, we have some exceptional artwork in this district. Have we ever looked at having an art display downtown as a fundraiser for the art department?
I'm not aware that we have. Looking at the principal, no, that's not.
I know we had some pictures out here about a year ago.
From the high
They
school.
were absolutely gorgeous. I mean, they were beautiful. And I think we ought to look into, if nothing else, even if it was a fundraiser, we ought to look into having a display in some of the storefronts for people to see what our kids are doing. Some of that is just exceptional work.
I happen to know there's about 4,000 square foot of storefront that you could put stuff in.
That's what I'm saying. Just an idea.
If I can just put something on that school security, I think the important thing for everybody in the public to understand as well, it's an ongoing conversation within the district. You're never done securing what it is that's around you. The day that you say you're done, somebody will invent some way to circumvent what you've done. So this is an ongoing conversation. It's an ongoing learning process. It's not one and done. So.
I have something that I would like to say. I met with the band boosters from the high school before Christmas. They're trying to raise money for band uniforms, and I was told that that might cost $45,000 to $50,000, and I thought, oh, that's going to be a really tough slog. So I sat with them a week or so ago, and I was amazed to find that they've already raised $30,000. So they're really close to their goal. They're hoping that it'll only be $45,000, but you know, when the quotes come in with the shipping and handling and taxes, you know, you get that some leeway. But I did, they sent me a list of people and organizations who have made donations directly to band boosters. I just wanted to go over the clubs and organizations and one company, not any individual names because I don't have permission to say their names, but Culinary Construction, the American Legion, Only Orchids, the Lake Havasu Symphonic Winds, Referrals Club of Lake Havasu, Rods and Relics, Daybreakers Lions Club, Havasu 95 Speedway, Ace Hardware Roundup, and London Bridge Rotary. And I also want to thank David Lewis for the article he wrote for the paper and got on the front page, because I can't help but think that article, a lot of these club members remind people that you can give money directly to the band boosters as a donation. You can give a donation to the school and mark, or to, you can send it to the district office or go to Havasu High School with a designation for band uniforms. But you can also give the tax credit contributions. And you can still, if people have not given for their tax credit contribution for 2017, they have until April the 17th, and people are doing their taxes right now. And this would be a really good time if they need to apply it to 2017, and if they haven't, instead of waiting until December to donate to the band for 2018, you can go ahead and make your 2018 donation now, because wouldn't it be wonderful for the band to have its new uniforms in the fall when school starts with this brand new track and field that we're going to have for our city. So anyway, I'm going to speak to the principal and see if there will be any money for the school to make a tax credit donation. I have no idea, because I know there are some discretionary funds. But this is something I'm just really very excited about. And hats off to Lake Havasu for what it's already done. It's just incredible, the backing of it.
Jared, do we have any more calls to the public?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I would like to make a comment about the appearance of the high school. It's really, after all those years of that desert road, this is just wonderful. Let me tell you. And it really looks good. And the thing that really made me feel good is I was walking to high school one night. One of the staff members told me that they were involved in the selection. And I just thought that was such a good move, and I'm sure maybe the students too were involved, because the people who spend so much time up there, when you involve them in things like this, it really turns out good. And there have been a lot of real favorable comments in the public about the high school. And then I was also told by someone else that this was your idea, Scott. So I want to just...
So you found our only two liars.
Well, I'm not going to tell you who told me.
What did I do to involve staff in the decision?
Yeah, but then to involve the staff in the decision, I just thought that was such a good move. And then I was told, as the ex officio member of the EBT, am I supposed to give a report?
Go right ahead.
And I've written it out, so it's going to be short. And on February 1st, the trustees of the Employment Benefit Trust met with Aaron P. Collins Associates Incorporated, which is the company that manages the district health care program, and vendors who provide the services, and also a CPA to review the financial information of the EBT and make recommendations and strategies to address the future of health care services for our staff. Our next meeting is tomorrow, February the 21st at 3 p.m. here at the district office. If you like meetings, this is a great place to go because you won't get out for at least 3 hours. That's what a real lockdown is like. Anyway, that's all.
Do we have any future agenda items that anybody would like to bring forward at this point? David, do you have any clarifying questions?
Usually I have 3.
Okay.
When we use these currently the expenditures, you give the pie chart, what's the total dollars? Okay. And then I've got 67% on instruction and support services. Do you know what the percentages that is spent on salaries and
Well, we just as a rule of thumb, it's usually 85% that goes for.
And that's pretty consistent with schools. And with regards to the bond, Mr. President, you talked about in the past that if you take away the cost for the field trip, you're $2 million under budget, correct?
If you look at the bond as a whole without the field project, we're about $2 million.
Okay. So as you look forward to the final bond issuance, and you factor into the cost for goods and manpower issues, what's your gut feeling on overall expenditures? Do you think there's a good chance of providing what was promised at the costs anticipated when you look at the big picture?
No, I think it's important for you to understand that when you're projecting 10 years into the future, which is really what we did when we put the bond together, that you're making an educated guess. So what's a computer going to cost 10 years from now? Nobody can really put a hard number on that. But when we sit down and we look at technology and excuse me, things like air conditioning, and some of the other projects that we've put forth, we've been at or under budget to date. Costs are going to rise. The cost of a car is going to go up. The cost of a bus is going to go up. The cost of a lot of things are going to move north. Looking at it today, and not using hindsight, but using foresight, which is a much different thing, I would say that we'll complete the projects in the bond as presented, assuming all of the standard factors that come into play. If the standard factors don't come into play and there's something that really rockets up in one area or another, then yeah, we're going to have to look at things and readdress things. But again, it's the intention at this point, looking forward, that we address every project listed in the bond.
I did have one thing.
Of course.
My source for my quote last month is Bloom's Tax